Hey there, it's Andre, the Impulsive Thinker, and today I've got Eric the Viking Solbakken. You've heard him; he was on here talking a while back, talking about entrepreneurship in the professional world. He's a recovered CPA, author, and the creator of the Accountant Success Formula, which is an executive level coaching program that he developed that allows CPA firms to update their business model from the traditional model. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great, Andre. How about yourself?
So far, so good. The reason I asked you to come on to this episode today because episode 211, it was a discussion I had with Dr. Parhar about ADHD and substance use disorder. And then I followed that up with a short called I'm an Alcoholic Truth. And one of the thing that really got me on there was when he said the high functioning alcoholic is generally accepted and misunderstood. And we've had a lot of conversations about alcohol and substance use. And you said that made sense to you as well. And I wanted to discuss our stories and just get clarity on this high functioning alcoholic. And we're talking about alcoholism because that's what we're both experienced with. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, I got a doctorate in that one. So it's funny because when you introduced me and you called I'm a recovered accountant, that is just a joke, because
Oh, fair
what I do is
enough.
I show I'm a recovered accountant because I'm recovered from accounting, but underlying that is yeah, I'm a
Sorry.
recovering alcoholic as
Oh,
well, but people don't, they just think it's hilarious. Oh yeah, you're a recovered accountant, you've recovered from accounting, right? Blah blah
yeah.
blah. So funny. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny because it's true, like on multiple levels, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I'm glad you put that in there. um yeah, so yeah, and by the way, kudos to you, man. I listened to that podcast and you shared from the heart and openly, and I've had lots of conversations, but the fact that you went on the podcast and did that second one after your conversation with the doctor there, and you realized, like, holy crap, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. like
Thank
and
you.
and as you explained more of your story through that podcast, and you shared a bunch of stuff in the podcast that you hadn't shared with me before, and I
Mm,
listened to it and I went, holy shit, dude, if you had actually told me that that's the way you were thinking and that's the way you were going, I would have said, dude, you're an alcoholic. Like,
yeah.
don't even give it a question, right? But because like I said, I got a doctorate in this stuff because I am one, right? I'm coming up on 16 years sobriety in December. And
Wow.
I worked with so many, that's part of the recovery for me, is working with other people and be an example for them and show them. But yeah, when you explained it, I was like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense.
Clear as
Like,
day,
oh, it's clear as day. Yeah. It's like, because you're listening to someone and they're explaining what's going on in your life. And it's like looking in a mirror. I'm hearing you and I'm going, yeah, I'm looking in a mirror. I can pick out my own story inside there. So yeah, kudos for you for coming out and being open and honest about it. And I know you got a lot of response back on it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And
And
that's why I wanted this conversation more.
yeah, and then when you came back and talked to me about it, I was like, yeah, okay, I will definitely step up to the table and talk about this.
Like,
On a side note, there is a concept of anonymity that's prevalent in the recovery movement, and that you should be anonymous at the level of press, radio, and films. And I had quite a few conversations with some other people about this, but it's like, you have to have someone to be able to stand up and say, yeah, I've got this. This is how I got well. I recognize there was a problem. And so other people can actually go, oh man, I got that too. Like, help.
mhm.
Like, so there's a very fine balance there. Right. So, and so especially because of all the stigmatism. And I know that's what you wanted to talk about, is the
Yeah.
stigma of the alcohol, when people say that, of alcoholism. Now it's way different from when, like, even 15 years ago, man. Like,
Oh, it's not the same world.
it's not the same world,
No.
right? Like, going to rehab now is almost trendy.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
badge of honor. If you're an artist or a musician, if you haven't been to rehab, you're not really, true artist.
So before we get too far in this, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that we're speaking from personal experience. We're not medical doctors or trained professionals. We're not going to give any opinions, just our observations of ourselves in our own story. And when you said you were listening to me on the podcast, you're saying, yeah, dude, we're going to joke that you got a doctorate in alcoholism. And
Yeah,
that's,
well, yeah, that's a
that's
joke. I
being
don't really have a doctorate
right.
but I've got,
But
I'm 53 years old. I've got 53 years of experience in
right.
this space.
Yeah. So I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that that's what we're referring to.
Yeah.
So you heard me in the podcast and you're saying, yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
And for me, honestly, I was oblivious to it. And then when Dr. Bahar used the term the high functioning alcoholic, that was
Yeah.
a slap in my face while we're having the conversation. He actually froze and thought he offended me, but it hit me so hard. So why would I
Yeah.
not seen this before from your
Yeah.
experience or observations?
Well, yeah. Okay. So here's my experience. There's a couple things in this. One, I just want to point to the thing that actually made me go, yeah, dude, that's so you're an alcoholic. I can hear it because of the story. One of the greatest obsessions of shall we call it a non-alcoholic drinker? So an alcoholic drinker, they have an obsession with how they can drink normally. There's an obsession on how you can handle your drinking and control your drinking. So when you were explaining to me how you were trying to control it and handle it, and maybe I'll only drink when I want to, not when I need to, and all those normies, as we call it, they don't obsess about whether or how to drink or how to the rest of it, right? So as soon as you said that, I went ping, and I went, there it was. Like it's right there.
Oh, wow. Because I remember always, how much can I have before I don't have to drive? How much can I do before so I can still drive home? And I kept pushing the limits.
Yeah, no, it's the obsession of every non-normal drinker is how to drink, to control, to not get into to not have the shitstorm happen, not have the problems happen. And how can I drink? How can I do this right? So as soon as you said that, I went, oh, dude, if you had told me about that part of the story, I would have said, oh yeah, well, by the way, you might want to take this little quiz that I have that you can look at. But anyways, so sorry. And then the second part of that, the question, I got sidetracked there for a second. What was that?
Well, I forget too.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, no, what was it like? Yeah, what things did I say? But what was I not seeing?
Oh, it's the high. Sorry, that
as a high functioning alcoholic.
Okay, so let's talk at the high functioning. This is my experience with this, and this is also what stopped me from finally getting help. Is that
stopped you drinking and to get help? You mean?
Yeah. Is that there's a stigma associated with the alcoholic, right? That if you're an alcoholic, the first thing that pops into most people's heads, again, it's changed quite a bit now, but back before it's the brown bagger under the bridge. It's the town drunk. It's Barney from The Simpsons, right? It's and so, in my case, I was a professional accountant. I was a chartered accountant. I was a partner in a firm. I was a tax specialist, and so in all sense of purposes, I was a high functioning alcoholic. Now my story is it's very messy compared to yours. Like you've had an aha moment. So what I'd say to you is that you've managed to have your aha moment before you hit a nasty bottom. For most alcoholics, they got to hit a nasty bottom before they stop. And for me, I had to have my bell rung. Like I lost my first accounting firm partnership over it. It was very messy and ugly at the end. So, being high functioning still didn't stop, and having a partnership or being a professional didn't stop me from really hitting at some nasty, nasty bottoms. And I had to have my bell rung before I actually got well.
What do you mean by that? Bell rung?
Well, I had to have a wake up call, like a major wake up call. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail because there's other people involved in this, but my drinking was really bad and everybody else around me could see it before I could. So, this is one thing is if you're seeing someone that's having that problem, they're drinking too much and things are going around, it's good to tell your friends, hey, you're drinking too much. You got to be careful. Like, I really wish I had, we call it tough love. I wish more people around me had given me some tough love and said, if you don't fix and take care of this, we're not going to be around you anymore because you're really killing yourself. Like, I really wish that had happened. So, now it's, and I have friends and family and stuff that are, I see it so easy. It's easy for me to see it now because it's me. Like, I can look in a mirror and go, oh crap. So I try and help them as best I can, which is like, dude, you got a problem. I can see it. It's all over the place. The way you're drinking, it's offside. And I've been there. So if and when you're ready, you have a chat with me and I can help you. Right. But until then, have at her. Because most people don't quit. Like, you're an anomaly, Andre. I'll tell you that right now, because you stopped before you lost anything. You didn't lose your wife, your family, your daughter, your kids, your business, and all the rest of that stuff. For me, I had to lose my business to have my bell rung.
Well, for me, I lost a business, potentially lost my wife and my kids when I had my first life tempest around my diagnosis. And I had that, it ramped up over the last year and a bit with the drinking, where it was like, I don't want to go through that shit again for another reason. So if you look at that, you had your first bell rung on the first diagnosis. So you had already had, I had a nasty bottom back then.
Nasty bottom. So
and I could see the bell this time, actually.
You could see it coming. You could see it coming to hit you on the head, right? Yeah. So that's an interesting thought, because like, for myself now I'm constantly seeing things coming and I'm going, oh, I better watch my diet. Oh, I better watch I better watch this. Like, you become more vigilant because and if we talked about this about another
self-awareness is
once you know, you can't unknow.
Right. Yeah.
Once you can't unknow. So once the genie is out of the bottle, it's like, okay, now there's an issue, and now I can recognize that issue more and more.
And for me, like, I know when I quit smoking, a few weeks after I quit, because I went to cold turkey, all or nothing, I did know that if I'd one drag, I'm back to a pack. And then right now, when I actually say, dude, you're an alcoholic, I can never have a sip ever again, because I'll be back to the bottle, bottle a day. I just know that. And that scares me. So I don't know if it's just a way for my brain to trick me, but it's just there's no way. Oh, it's just, I've been good for a few years. Just try it. No, because it's going to just go back. The brain remembers all that shit, in my opinion. And it'll just be, oh, gimme. That's the way I feel it.
Yeah. I mean, I watch people and they have like a glass of wine and they leave half of the glass full and they walk. And I'm like, that, I think personally, that's alcohol abuse. When you only drink half a glass of wine to an alcoholic, that's alcohol abuse. What are you doing? You can't throw that out. Like, so I know for a fact for myself, I can never safely take a drink for the rest of my life. Yeah. And I'm so glad to hear you say that you've had that aha moment going, no, if I have one, it will take off. And this is the interesting thing, is that all the research and all of the experience from anyone who's recovered in the past, it's shown over and over again that no matter how long you have been sober, right? And oh, by the way, there's a difference between being dry, not drinking, and being sober. I think we should talk about those two things. Yeah, we should. Right? I agree. But let's say you've been sober and then you go back to having a drink after 30, 40 years of not drinking. People are either dead, incarcerated, or in the nut house, right? Like, those are the three opportunities. You're either in the morgue or in the hospital or in jail, or in that. And so, but there's a difference between being sober and being dry. So just putting a plug in the jug and not drinking actually doesn't address my problem. If I just quit drinking, that just gets rid of one of the symptoms, right? Because I've never had a drinking problem. I drank, I got drunk, I felt down, no problem, right? There's a joke, like it's on the t-shirt, right? Like, I don't have a drinking problem. I have a thinking problem. And this is where it really ties into, it's like, I have a thinking problem. My brain, I process things different. So once the alcohol, you stop drinking, now you're left with the real problem, which is what's going on between your ears for me, right? Yeah. And for people that I've talked to that really dived into this, and they're going, yeah, it's been my thinking that caused me, right? There's why did I go to the bottle in the first place? Drinking was actually a solution.
Yes,
Drinking
exactly.
was a solution to the underlying problem I had. So now I actually, once you start treating the problem, the underlying problem, now you're sober, right?
Because you're dealing with it.
Yeah,
It's
but
an action.
you're treating the problem, then you're
Correct.
sober. You
Yeah.
can see clearly, as opposed to just putting a plug in the jug and not treating the underlying thinking problem.
Yeah. In The Myth to Normal by Gabor Mate, he actually says there's a difference between abstinence and being sober. Abstinence is
Yeah.
just not doing it, while sober
Yeah.
is actually actively not doing it for a reason.
Treating
So
the underlying, yeah.
correct. And like he said, we shouldn't be asking what's the substance you're abusing. It's actually, the question is, what is your pain?
Yep.
What
What's the
is the
problem?
pain are you trying to hide or numb? So it's
Right.
not like you said, it's not a drinking problem. It's a thinking problem. It's a thinking about yourself. Like for me, it was, I had to numb the feelings I was feeling of being abandoned and treated like shit again. I
Mhm.
didn't want to feel this anymore. So I went deep for a month every day. Right.
Yeah.
My thinking of me was not good. And I wanted to numb the feelings
Right.
and run away from the pain. And that's what I'm hearing from you. That's you're trying to explain is it's a mental health challenge, and you're using the substance as the escape.
Yeah. Drinking is actually a solution, was a
Yeah.
solution for me until it wasn't. Right. It was a solution until it wasn't.
A maladaptive solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's, and they, I take this phrase that I really believe works for me for sure. It's the disease of the ego. I have a disease of the ego. Right. Um, uh, Another definition that I truly relate to is being an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. that's that's the definition of an alcoholic, right? An egomaniac with an inferiority complex. Because really, we're a bunch of little kids that are scared, and the ego is so driven. It's just protect the me, protect the me. So how do I protect myself? I don't feel good. I'm scared. I'm drink. Oh, feel better. Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I feel alive. I feel confident or whatever. And it, everybody feels those a little bit, and the other interesting thing for me was alcohol is actually a depressant. Like it actually,
Right.
depressant to me, it's a stimulant. If I drink, I get fired up and then I go and I go hard. Right. So obviously there's some chemical, and again, I'm not a specialist.
Yeah. I think it all depends how you want to. Yeah.
It's But the one thing I did know is that once I started, then all of a sudden, I have an obsession to try and drink normally. But when I did start drinking, that obsession to drink normally would go out the window, and the obsession would take over. And then the other obsession, the physical addiction, would take over. And then I would be off to the races. One's too many, 10's not enough.
Yeah. The other thing I didn't understand, yeah, by rights, alcohol is a depressant. But at the same time, I also heard that whatever mood you want to be, the alcohol can amplify that as well. So it sounds, if you want to be happy and social, so, a lot of people say the only way I can be social is if I drink. Actually, the other part is too, it actually removes inhibition. So now you can grow out of your shell, and because your brain's not stopping you anymore. You're just going all out.
Yeah, which is quite funny, because when people meet me now, and again, this is part of the recovered accountant joke. It's that, like, people meet me and they're like, "You're a what?" I said, "Yeah, I'm an accountant." They're like, "You don't seem like an accountant." I'm like, "That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me." Right. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, you want to drink?" "No, I don't drink." "What? You don't drink?" I said, "Can you imagine what I'd be like if I was drinking?" They're like, "Yeah, don't." Just don't. You got enough energy flowing out of you right now without it. And I just don't use it. And for me, it's just, and again, for any of the listeners out there, we're not poo-pooing drinking or doing any of those sorts of things, like, at all, because that's the last thing anybody who likes to enjoy their alcohol and their whatever they're doing, have at her. For me, nah, I can't do it. And I don't want to do it anymore. There's a difference. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. But it's interesting. We've talked about this, about how the ADHD and the alcoholism and the entrepreneur, right? The entrepreneur seems to be very susceptible to these two mental afflictions,
Yeah,
right?
because with the ADHD, we got, it's two speeds, all in or all out. It's very hard to moderate. So I'm
Yeah.
either going to drink to the fullest or not drink. And then a lot of times to mask our symptoms from others, or we're self-medicating a lot of our symptoms. Like for me in university, being hyperactive, I needed to burn a lot of physical energy because I was in class all day, sitting, doing nothing. But if I went and danced my ass off, I'm not saying I'm the best looking guy. I'm not a big jock, but I'm a big boy. To look a big, strong boy dancing his ass off sober is weird. But there's drunk Andre. That's awesome. Right. So it's given here. I was able to be me, but I had to be drunk so I can be accepted.
Again, a solution.
Right.
It was a solution for you, right? Drinking was a solution for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until it wasn't.
Well, and then it turned into,
until it turned into the problem.
It was, there was a self-medicating my symptoms to the point where I was numbing myself and drinking to run away from my pain.
Yeah. Here, I think this is a really important point to bring up. We talk about running away from the pain that you have. I had no comprehension that that's what I was doing. I had no, we're talking about it as if it's a conscious decision, but it was never conscious when I was doing it. I wasn't conscious of the fact that I had a thinking problem. I didn't realize it. It actually took quite a few years for me to, they say 5 years to get your brain back, 5 years to figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
Right. And looking back now, I can see clearly, hindsight is 2020. I look back now very clearly. I'm going, yeah, that's why I drank. I understand why I drank now. I saw it clearly. There was a thinking problem. I was a scared little kid, and their childhood trauma, all those things that are piled on there. I see it clearly now, right?
Because you got the glasses now, but not back then.
I didn't then. And just so if anything, if anybody's listening to us that's going, maybe I do have a problem or not, or they're going, oh, that's not me. Don't take anything from our experience and going, oh, well, I don't have that clarity, so I don't think I'm running from anything, so that's not my problem. The thing that I would ask yourself, if I share this, is what happens when you do drink? The shit goes sideways. Goes sideways. And, there's different stages of drinking. There's party people, there's social drinkers, there's even really heavy drinkers. And not all of them become true, shall we call it, alcoholic. And many people do put the plug in the jug before they go down that alcoholic. I would put you in that camp, Andre, because you stopped before it became alcoholically drinking, right? Where's the line? I don't know. This is subject to interpretation, but there's a point in time where where you can't imagine a life with drinking. You can't imagine a life without drinking. Now you're screwed, right? You're at a crossroads. And I hit that crossroads, and it was, like I said, I hit a nasty bottom. I'm grateful for that now, because I would never have gotten sober if I hadn't had my bell rung really hard.
So to go back, you had to do what? No.
Well, I was going to say I did it twice. I went in, I got sober the first time, shall we call it sober, didn't really treat the underlying, I didn't follow through on it for about 2 years to save my first marriage. That didn't work, got divorced. And then I went, oh no, I can go back and now I can be a normie, because I always had in the back of my mind that obsession that I could drink with everybody and be a normal, that was an obsession that was still there. And so I went back out and did some, what we call on controlled drinking for 4 years, and it was a mess. By the end of the 4 years, it was a train wreck. But it wasn't in the beginning. It's a slow progression. And then from there, that's when I had the super bell ring, and bell rung, and I let go of everything and just went, okay, that's it.
Well, and that's the thing. And this is another example again on how amazing your brain is you didn't know, you said you didn't have it. You didn't realize you had a thinking problem, but your brain did. and it was trying to protect you somehow. And then when you got into alcohol, it was, I'm going to start using alcohol to protect my Eric,
Yeah. The little guy. Yeah.
the little guy.
Little Eric. Yeah.
And that's the thing that just amazes me about the brain, all these maladaptive ways to overcome challenges. A lot of times we don't realize it's subconscious because it's your brain's job is to protect you. So sometimes if you got to protect yourself from constant verbal abuse and belittling, maybe the brain will say, now let's make you a little bit more narcissistic so I can build you confidence. Right.
Yeah.
And until you start getting these realizations, which is deep, hard work, and just because you got your bell rung doesn't mean you're going to stumble. Yeah, like, I just want to make sure everyone understands. We're not saying this is easy, because the internal work is not easy.
Oh,
You got to be truly honest with yourself. And there's a lot of people who fall off the wagon on the wagon. Just, I never went through the program, Alcohol's Anonymous, but if you do fall off the wagon, they don't give you shit or make you feel bad. We just try again. Is that correct?
Get back up on the horse. Come back in.
And I'm not saying I'm going to be complete. I don't know if I'm going to be completely alcohol free. You did 16 years. It was not easy. I guarantee tomorrow is still not going to be easy. It's a constant challenge.
Oh, well, no, here's the difference though. I don't have a drinking problem. I don't even think about it anymore. I haven't thought about drinking for 16 years. It's a non-issue. Like for me, it's gone. Like the obsession is gone, but I'm treating the underlying problem.
Nice.
Okay.
Yes.
I treat the underlying problem as best I can every single day. And I treat it every single day by treating my thinking and how I'm going to orient myself in the world. And that then makes me in a position of neutrality. Like I'm neither sworn, it's just a non-issue. I just don't drink. I don't even think about it. Like I don't, someone offers it to me. I said, no, thank you. Right.
And it's the key thing is you're dealing with the underlying problem daily. And if you keep that in check.
Yeah.
Like that. No, that's the thing they're all saying right now is we shouldn't be asking what the substance is actually what's the challenge or the pain that you're trying to deal with, that you're using alcohol or substance to overcome.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. You said there's 2 points I want to bring up. One was you said the mind is an amazing mechanism. I think the body and the mind is incredible, right? Mm-hmm. There's like 3 parts to us, really. There's the mind, the body, and the spirit, right? Yes. There's a spiritual energy that's emanating all of this. We have a physical body, and then we have this mind and emotion that's going on. And it's the most amazing mechanism when you look at it. But it's interesting how it finds ways to protect you. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to substance abuse, it originally is doing it to protect you, and it ends up not protecting you. It ends up hurting you even more.
Correct.
So there's this saying that says be careful because your head's out to get your ass. Mm-hmm. Right. Like even though your brain is doing it to protect you, originally it was a solution. Eventually it turns into the problem.
Right.
Right. And so it's crazy how it's like the
but
body.
The thing is the brain
that's what cancer is. Like in the body, you think about cancer, it's like the body's fighting itself against intruders, but then it gets confused and it fights its own self. It ends up turning on itself.
Because the thing is the brain doesn't know if the resulting strategy is a positive or a negative effect. It's just protecting you.
Yeah.
The brain can't figure that out. It's just good. Just like if you're going to push your limits, like your brain's trying to keep you in homeostasis here. So if you're going to push yourself to grow and it's a positive, your brain's going to try to talk you out of it to get back to normal. It doesn't know it's a positive thing. But if it's on the negative side, it's actually going to try to talk you out to get back to homeostasis. It doesn't know which one's the positive or the negative side. It's just doing its role to protect.
Yeah, well, you're looking at homeostasis that once you're in your body, you're in the throes of,
and then the brain's used. That's a new normal for the brain.
Sideways.
Therefore, I'm going to keep getting you in front of alcohol or whatever substance. What was your second point?
Well, the second point is let's go right. Like I like to go right to the heart of the problem. Like I like to go, what's the root cause here? Like really, what's the root issue? And the root issue that I see has been for me and for, I believe, the entire human race is we don't know Our number one problem is ourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
If we can solve ourselves, we then go out into the world. Once you solve who you are and your place and what you're here for, you're not going to go out and hurt somebody else. You're not going to be angry or cheat someone. You're not going to, all the wars and everything would dissipate. They would go away if we could take care and figure out who we are at our core.
Yeah.
Ultimately, every single human on the planet is a scared little kid wondering, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Really? Is that not the bottom line?
53-year-old, 48-year-old, it
doesn't matter.
Recording, it's the same thing. We're all a small kid.
We're little kids trying to figure out why we're here.
Yeah.
All these so-called adults that are out there running our countries are just a bunch of scared little kids trying to make sense of everything.
Yeah.
Really. And so I really like having the conversation with people who are trying to it's like what Dan says. He goes, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be in a room where everybody's getting smarter. Right. I want to be in a room where people are all going, let's try and figure out what's going on here. Mm-hmm. Like, how can we figure out ourselves? And I think for me, and this is the podcast that I'm going to be launching next, is going to be solving yourself. And the mind, the body, and the spirit. And it's going to be, I love what you're doing here with the interviews process. And I'm going to be doing that, interviewing top thinkers in those three spaces to be able to bring these resources to everyone to go, work on yourself first, work on the self. And that doesn't mean being selfish. That's actually seeing, because once we see that we can be incredibly selfish, that's working, that's solving yourself. It's solving the self to go, okay, my ego's going out of whack here, right? And that's for me with the drink, I was out of whack because the ego was running the show. It was trying to protect me and going down what I thought was party central and this and that. And it was just trying to protect itself. But then I recognized that this is not working.
No.
Right. Yep. So I want to bring out as many resources as I can for everyone to be able to solve themselves. Right.
And that's beautiful because even if you're thinking there, shit, I might have a problem, nothing wrong with it. It's just a maladaptive way your body is trying to protect you. Everyone has a mental health issue condition. I don't care what anyone thinks or say. People are really good at hiding it. Or just like one buddy of mine told says, depressed people are really good at looking happy. A lot of anxious people are really good at not being anxious. So we all have challenges. Mental health is very important. And this is a lot has to do with it. So if you got a problem and you want to realize it, nothing wrong with it. Power to you. If you don't have a problem, power to you too. But like Eric said, like you said earlier, was, if it's causing you problems, nothing wrong with taking care of yourself first. That's what I tell people. Be selfish. Worry about yourself first. Fix yourself. Work on yourself, because then you can take care of the people around you because you've got a better hold. And for me, like you brought it up a few times, is that little Andre needed work. He was the one protecting me, lashing out at everyone, protecting me. And the world is safe for me now. And I got to have a different communication with myself, which helped with the separate from the alcohol. You got any last words here of advice? I think thanks again for sharing this and your insights, because I know you put a lot of deep thought into this. And one of the reasons I got a lot of respect for you is because we are able to go deep and honest and raw of our true selves, and even looking at the dark areas and bringing that up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thanks for asking me, man. I find that that's where the real conversations happen. It's not when one person is standing up saying, I'm your guru, I know all the answers, blah, blah, blah. It's actually coming to the table and going, yeah, I went through that crappy thing too, or I'm still trying to figure this thing out, and being open and honest about it. And like I said, I love that phrase, is I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be in the room where everybody's getting smarter, or in this case, everybody's, everybody's getting better, because here's the common affliction we all have. We're all human.
Yep.
We're human. And because we're human, we have this humanness in common. We're all human. So once you see that and you realize that everybody is also the same little scared kid trying to figure out their
Yeah.
place in this world and trying to figure out what's going on here, like this, the fabric of reality itself is a massive trip. Like, it's incredible what's going on around us, just existence. Once you
Right.
see that, once you see that and you clearly see it, then it all of a sudden, it really simplifies everything.
Well, that's an interesting point. If you see, just because we got to realize we're all human, nothing wrong with that. That's the reality. Just kind of gives that whole statement you made earlier. You know, it's the egomaniac with an inferiority complex. That's what actually causes the problem. I'm not human. I want to, you know, we're trying to do more. And I like how you noticed that earlier for the high function alcoholic. It's when I was talking about being obsessed how to control the drinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's an early warning.
Yeah.
And I got right when you said that, I went boom, 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 boom. I got, oh no, too many, not enough fingers to give examples, which is in my mind goes, oh crap. It's not just the last 5 years.
No, it hasn't
It's been 25. And pretty much from when I started drinking at 19, really. And then like I really like this part is, you know, treat the underlying problem and then you won't miss drinking, because I think that's the big thing I want everyone to take away here. You don't have to be a drop down dead drunk to be an alcoholic, like the Barney, like Eric explained earlier. It's deal with the underlying problem. 9 times out of 10, it's a mental health condition or something you don't feel very good about yourself, or you think so little of yourself and you don't care about yourself. That was for me. Deal with that, get yourself healed. And I agree with you, Eric. I don't think about, I can joke about drinking. I can be around drinking because I've dealt with my underlying problem. The little, the little guy wants to come out every once and play, but nah, you know, we're self-aware now, and just having that knowledge is huge. And like you said, our number one problem is ourselves. And I like this. Once you're sober because you dealt with the problem, then you're not going to want to go hurt other people. And when we say this, we're not implying that you're intentionally hurting people. It's just the result of, in our case, our discussion, alcoholism or any substance abuse is, in the end, we're hurting those around us that respect us, love us. And it's heartbreaking for them too, to see you like this and they can't do shit about it. Right. So,
Yep.
like you said, Eric, be selfish, take care of yourself, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I think for the listeners, what are you thinking about? Or what are you not thinking about? And just ponder that one. Dude, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. And good luck on your podcast. That'll be a powerhouse. So let me
Thanks,
know
brother.
when that comes out, and I'll definitely share with my listeners and everyone, because that'll be
Oh,
very
you're
great
already on my list
conversation.
of, already on my list of interviews. So
I know I'm a
you'll be
shy
on it.
person. I don't like
You'll be,
talking.
yeah, I know. You're on it, man. No worries there.
All right.
Rock and roll.
Thanks again, Eric. The pleasure always.
Awesome, brother. Thanks.
All right. And to the listener, thanks again. Reach out anytime to either of us. We're here to listen. So take care.